Hi guys, and welcome to episode 4 of I Don't Believe in Ghosts, but if you're new to the show, welcome. My name's Steve Watson, I'll be your host this evening. My background is 15 years of ghost hunting, or paranormal investigations, whichever you wish to call it. I currently run a group in the northeast of England called Ghost Northeast, and I've had several books published on the paranormal or ghostly activity in the north of England. You can check the books out on our website, ghostnortheast.co.uk/shop. And if you're not new to the podcast, welcome back and thank you for joining us again. Before I talk about tonight's episode, can I just ask you please to subscribe, to tick the like, to give us a rating, to share us and tell all your friends, because it means a lot to us podcasters. Moving on, this episode's a bit different to our previous ones. As you can tell, there is only my voice. Um, I am actually recording this from my sick bed, and I do apologise if my voice is a bit croaky and nasally, but I am full of cold, which has stopped us recording as we usually do as a team. However, it has given us a different idea, which, if you like this episode, please let me know, because I can do more in this format, which will allow us to get more content out to you guys more frequently. So, without ado, what are we going to be doing tonight? So, getting started, what's different about this episode? Well, this episode, we're not going to focus on locations. We're not going to have a discussion because there's only myself. But over the years, I get asked about stories, events, occurrences, activity that's happened to me personally over the last 15 years of investigations. And people ask if everything makes it into a book or a magazine or one of our presentations. Basically, I say no, because sometimes things happen that when you go to write it down, it doesn't read right. It doesn't give you the full experience. It doesn't let you know how I was feeling at the time, what was going on around us. So these podcasts are going to be Steve's Scary Tales, Steve's Spooky Stories. We'll also get other guests in and other team members to tell their own spooky tales as well. So the first one comes to mind, always the first one that I'm asked when people say, have you ever been scared? Yes, several times. I will share some of them on the up-and-coming episodes. But the one that stands out to us the most, and I can't write it because it doesn't give you the same feeling, was a time when we were at Marsden Grotto. This was about 13, 14 years ago, so it was at the start of the journey, I suppose. Um, it's putting the hairs up on my arms just thinking about it. So let me set the scene. We were at Marsden Grotto. If you're not local, you don't know what Marsden Grotto is. It's quite a unique pub in South Shields. It's built at the base of the cliffs in Marsden Bay and overlooks the beach and the sea. This was built a couple hundred years ago when a gentleman blew a hole in the bottom of the cliff to make a cave, and him and his family moved in there and lived there. That cave then expanded into a cafe and then into a pub. It's obviously not just a cave now. It's a full brick building turned into a restaurant. It's had many uses now over the last couple hundred years. And it's connected to the top of the cliff by a lift, major lift shaft. Or you can walk the steps. I will say walk down them, don't try and walk up them unless you're extremely fit. Um, it's a very unique building. Very unique building. I think the upstairs, I think it's been converted now into a restaurant and a boutique hotel. They don't really like ghost hunts there anymore, unfortunately. However, 10 years, 12 years ago, It was a pub restaurant. They were quite happy to have us in there doing ghost hunts on a Saturday night. And it was a great location. Its history and stories are paranormal, and as it was renowned for smugglers and all sorts of skullduggery back at the time. With so many stories, we will probably do an episode on Marsden Grotto later on. However, I don't want to bore you with them details tonight. So have a look, Marsden Grotto. So we were in Marsden Grotto. We had guests in, public in. It was split over 2 floors. Downstairs is a bar, restaurant, made into the cave. And then you went upstairs, and the upstairs was like a large restaurant where the dance floor was used for parties and events, weddings, and the likes. It had a small cave in the back as well. So we, we had guests in, we were conducting an investigation on the night, and one of the team, Marty, was helping me as we were going up and downstairs. We were taking equipment to the other teams, or generally just checking everybody was okay. Now, if you look at the building from the beach, on the left-hand side, at the end of the bar restaurant, was the stairs that went up, the steps upstairs. Downstairs were toilets under the stairs, and at the top of the stairs there was also a toilet. But that toilet upstairs was always shut, closed, not for use. Um, for whatever reason, I don't know the ins and outs. I'm not a plumber. um, but they were closed. Me and boy had been up and down the stairs a couple of times, and twice when we got to the top of the stairs and walked past, we heard a bang, quite a loud bang, to be honest with you, coming from the unused toilets. First time we took not a lot of notice, to be honest with you. Was it the wind? Was it just drafts? The usual, just come and move on. The second time was stopped because it only sort of as we walked past. So we went back down up the stairs to make sure it wasn't us causing it, walking on the floorboards or walking on the steps. We opened the doors to make sure we weren't causing the draft through the doors, which was causing the noise. No, nothing. Third time, we were talking, walked past, bang again. So we looked at each other, right, how let's go in. So we went into this toilet, so there was no lights on, it was dark. Um, Apart from a very small fire exit, like a firelight above the door, which gave off like a greenish sort of haze. You know, the kind, I mean, like I said, not when you go into places now and they've got the really bright white fire lamps. This was the old fashioned green one. Gave off enough light, but it wasn't bright. So we went in, we stood there for a couple of minutes. Nothing was happening. So we'll do an experiment. And I remember standing with my back to the cubicle. The cubicle door wasn't open, it wasn't closed, it was ajar, shall we say. Um, and quite clearly, I stood with my back to the cubicle door. I wasn't touching the door, I wasn't the other door. And about 4 or 5 feet in front of me stood Marty, looking straight at us, so we were opposite each other, and he had his back on the wall of the toilet, the door to leave. And we were standing there for a couple of minutes, we were just calling out and chatting. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to explain this all, but what I need is to understand it sort of all happened at the same time. And it was only over a matter of seconds. I was standing there and I felt the coldest of drafts across my back, across the back of my legs. At the same time, I didn't turn and look. I put my hand out. I remember clearly I'm doing it as I'm talking to you. I put my left hand sort of behind my back because I felt something there, somebody there, or something there. And as I put my hand out, and my hand would have been about waist height. As I put my hand out, I felt something. It was as if, I'll say it was like a head of hair. As I put my hand out, I looked across at Marty, who was pointing at past us. His eyes were more like saucers, I remember distinctly. His eyes were like saucers, his mouth was open. There was nothing coming out of his mouth. And he had gone white as a sheet. I mean, the colour had drained from him. And he was trying to say something. I don't know what he was trying to say. But at the same time, I've got my hand out behind my back. And I've literally got my hand on somebody's head. As it all happened at once, as I turned, the feel of my hand went. And I've got to say, I didn't see anything. I didn't. As I turned around fast, the toilet door slammed shut in my face, but there was no draft. We both jumped, obviously, the door slamming. I turned around and Marty looked. He had gone from standing to sitting with his knees up. He was holding his knees. And he's just staring at us with his eyes. And I was like, what on earth? And he turns, I've just seen a boy. I said, what? He said, I've just seen a boy. He says, there was a boy stood behind you. I'm all the hairs on my back's gone up because I can remember the thoughts and the feelings. And when you look at somebody, you can tell, I still say it, you can tell when somebody is telling you the truth or they're just having a wobble. He was looking at it, and I remember just, Steve's a boy, Steve's a boy. I then turned and I opened the toilet door, the cubicle door. There was nothing there, there was nobody there to be seen. I then went to the windows, checked the windows for drafts. And he was still, when I turned around, Martin still sat on the floor. I says, explain what you could say. He says, you had your hand on his head. Which I had never said anything. I hadn't told him that's what I had felt at this point. He says, was a little boy, maybe he was 4 or 5 years old. He said, I would describe him as a bit Victorian dress type, shorts, and he had blonde curly hair. He says, you had your hand on his head. He says, but as was sort of screamed and shouted as the chaos happened, as I say, this sounds like drawn out, but this all happened within seconds. He says, he literally turned and just disappeared. He says, I can't see, he ran off. He says, just literally disappeared. He says, then the door slammed. We sat there for a good 10 minutes trying to get really our bearings. I don't know if we were too scared to go outside. I can't remember at the time thinking. I just remember being so confused at what had happened because I'd put my hand out and I distinctly felt a head of hair. And for him to turn around, point to us and say, you had your hand on his head, really threw us. So, what happened that night, I'll never know. I don't. I've tried to write it before, but it never sounds the same when you write it in words to what you're talking about the experience. But that has to be one of the scariest experiences I've had after an event. Because as it was happening, I wasn't scared because I just didn't know what was going on. It wasn't until 10, 15 minutes we went out, we went downstairs and had a cup of tea at the bar. And we were talking to the manager, Paul, and he says he'd never seen us like that before. So we had explained what had happened. And they just shrugged because it was known that was a little boy haunted Marsden Grotto. It's a famous story. And I remember after the fact becoming scared. Well, I've been scared at the time. And it is for a good year after that. maybe 78 investigations, I had to go round the other way to go upstairs. I was too scared to walk up the stairs. But I don't know why, because that's what we do it for. So, what happened that night? You decide, as I always say. I'm not here to change opinions or prove anything. I can't. It was one of them moments again, like so many moments. I'm sure there's plenty of ghost hunters out there who witnessed the good old, oh, the camera's switched off, or we haven't switched the camera on, or we've got the camera in the wrong place when something happens. And that was one of them. We had no way of recording it. We didn't have a camera with us. But we do know what each other's seen. So we'll let you decide what happened that night. So that's one of the tales of many that I have, of dozens to tell, all of different locations. I can think of many places: Witton Castle, Nedpath Castle, the Littonville, Jedburgh Jail. I'm trying to think where the Little Theatre in Gateshead. I can think of many places where things have happened and I haven't written stories. So I will be bringing the stories to the podcast. So if you have enjoyed this different format, please let us know. Send us an email to ghostpodcast@hotmail.com. Because, as I say, if you have enjoyed tonight's episode, it does maybe give us a way to give you a bit more frequency to our podcasts. I think the next episode, episode 5, we will be going back to our usual format. In the meantime, guys, thank you for the follows. Thank you for being interested in I Don't Believe in Ghosts. But, as I say, please subscribe. If you fancy coming with us on a ghost hunt, go on the website, ghostnortheast.co.uk. There's also a new shop category on the website with all sorts of gifts and bits and bobs. Until next time, don't have nightmares.